Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into something I find just absolutely fascinating. It's one of the most intense and honestly, surprisingly fragile processes in the entire natural world. We call it the critical handoff. We're talking about exactly what happens when animals have to pass down essential, literal life-or-death survival knowledge to the next generation. Because, it's not just about raw instinct that magically kicks in. It's a critical, high-stakes education. And as you'll see, the methods they use to teach these lessons are, well, they're truly wild.
Okay, let's dive into this. When you and I think about human parenting, it's pretty much built entirely around safety, right? We pad the sharp corners of the coffee table. We baby-proof the cabinets. We hold our kids' hands super tight when crossing the street. But out in the wild, parenting operates on a totally different wavelength. There are obviously no padding corners out in the ocean or on the savannah. Today, we're going to look at 3 animals that teach their young in ways that humans would simply never dare. And we're starting with a creature that looks incredibly gentle, but man, it employs a genuinely shocking teaching method.
So, let's talk about the sea otter. Their journey goes straight from this incredibly safe belly right into the deep end. Literally. Mother sea otters start off their parenting journey by keeping their babies perfectly dry and completely safe. They just rest them right on top of their bellies as they float peacefully through the water. It looks so nurturing, right? Like the ultimate protective embrace. But when the time comes for that baby to actually learn how to swim, everything changes. The transition from that cozy, dry resting spot to the freezing, harsh reality of the ocean is, well, it's abrupt.
The lesson is brutal, but it's highly effective. First, the mom literally dunks her baby straight under the water. Then she immediately pulls it back out. Dunk, pull out. Dunk, pull out. Over and over again. It's this relentless, repetitive physical conditioning program that just does not stop until that baby can finally paddle and swim on its own. It's totally jarring to watch, but it's really the only way they learn. And even when they finally can swim, the mother still wraps her little ones securely in a thick bed of kelp. Why do that? Well, because the ocean currents are totally unforgiving. She essentially anchors them in the kelp so they don't drift away into the open ocean whenever she has to dive down deep to hunt for food. It is serious, tough love, paired with a very practical, life-saving tether.
But not all lessons are just about brute physical repetition. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how we move away from the sea otter's repetitive drills to something highly methodical and fiercely strategic, the cheetah's calculated classroom. For a cheetah, survival is entirely dependent on speed, precision, and hunting prowess. Raw instinct alone just isn't going to secure their next meal. Teaching a cub how to outmaneuver the fastest prey on Earth, that requires a very specific, carefully calculated type of education that honestly leaves absolutely zero room for error.
So, for a cheetah cub, everything changes at exactly 6 months old. Once they hit that exact milestone, the mother just shifts gears entirely. She transitions from simply providing food to creating this live-action classroom. She'll go out, actively catch live prey, bring it all the way back to her cubs, and then she intentionally lets it go, right in front of them. She deliberately releases a panicked, extremely fast-moving animal directly into the path of her very clumsy, highly uncoordinated cubs. And this trial and error happens on a staggering scale. We're talking hundreds of times. The mother will just stand back, watching patiently as her cubs fumble, trip over their own paws, and let the prey completely escape. And here is the truly methodical, almost ruthless part of the whole lesson. She never steps in. Not once. This deeply frustrating process happens hundreds of times out on the savannah until finally one day it just clicks and the cub makes the catch itself. That is pretty much the ultimate definition of learning the hard way.
Okay, so we've seen tough love, and we've seen intense trial and error. But let's slow things down for a second, because the absolute wildest example in the entire animal kingdom belongs to the humpback whale in what we call the fragile tradition. Unlike the purely physical skills of, say, swimming or chasing prey, humpback whales are dealing with vast, complex geographic knowledge. Every single pod has its own specific, highly unique migration route spanning thousands of miles across the open ocean. This isn't just a genetic instinct that they're born with. It's a learned, incredibly vital cultural tradition.
And this brilliantly illustrates how this incredible geographic knowledge is actually transferred. It happens through one unique method, the song. This isn't just some beautiful noise echoing in the deep. It's the sole method by which humpback whale mothers pass down those complex, pod-specific navigation routes to their young. The mother literally sings the map to her baby. Over and over again, during their entire first journey together across the ocean, she sings this highly specific song, repeating the sonic map endlessly until the calf has the entire route completely memorized.
But this brings us to the very core of our explainer today.
What happens when this critical handoff is interrupted? Because the reality of the wild is that it is often unpredictable, unforgiving, and, frankly, tragic. If the mother dies during this first crucial journey, before successfully passing that entire song down, the consequences are absolute. That baby whale will be lost forever. Without the completed song, they simply do not have the map. There is no other way for them to know where to go.
So the crucial point is there is no backup plan here. No hidden genetic instinct suddenly kicks in to tell them where to go because there is literally no other. No other whale from a different pod can step in and teach them that specific mother's song. If the lesson stops before it's finished, the knowledge dies with it. The finality of that lost song is absolutely total. The route is erased from that family line forever.
Which leaves us with a massive, provocative question. If an entire survival route, a vital piece of a pod's history and future, can simply vanish with one interrupted song, how much other animal culture has already been lost? Generational knowledge in the wild is this supreme, incredibly fragile miracle. It really makes you realize that survival isn't just about having sharp teeth or fast legs. It's about the unbroken chain of a lesson successfully passed down. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, and I'll see you next time.